Well, I am so honored to share today's episode of Backstage with Randy Phillips with you today. I am Randy Phillips, and my guest, the queen of contemporary Christian music. Yes, you heard me, the queen, Natalie Grant. Wow, I can't wait. But before we begin, I want to share a review from one of our listeners with you. Pastor says, Pastor Randy is an outstanding interviewer. Thank you, Pastor. You're my favorite person. There's laughter, tears, insight, and so much compassion. I look forward to hearing what's next and listening again to these wonderful podcasts. Well, thank you, Pastor. Thank you. And I pray you continue to look forward to this podcast for years to come. If you're also enjoying this show, would you take time to rate and review this podcast? Maybe next time I'll read your comments on the air. Well, I'm so thankful for the ministry of Natalie Grant, the person of Natalie Grant, the character of Natalie Grant. She sat down with me for a meaningful conversation despite being on tour, pulled 100 different ways, and she had vocal challenges, and still she talked to me, and I appreciate it. You know Natalie Grant as a 9-time Grammy nominee, 5-time Dove Award Female Vocalist of the Year. Wow. But what you might not know is where it all began. And these stories of her career and marriage are going to thrill you. You'll hear the joy in her voice as she talks about her kids and excitement she shares about what's next for her career. I can't wait to dive in. Let's go. I'm Randy Phillips. This is Backstage with Randy Phillips and my guest, the queen of contemporary Christian music, Natalie Grant.
I don't know about that, but wow, thank you.
It's true.
Aw, you're too kind.
I'm kind, but truth is truth.
Well, thank you for that.
9 Grammys, 5 Female Vocalists of the Year, platinum albums, number ones.
Well,
is
God
that not
is
the
good.
queen of
I
contemporary
don't know.
Christian? It is.
God is good. When you hear that, I just go, I don't know. You're talking about somebody else.
No, I'm talking about you.
I've never lost the wonder that I get to do it. What a gift. I just always am like, it used to be my hairbrush, and all those people used to be my stuffed animals, and I'm still doing what I dreamed of doing. I can't believe it. I tell myself on the days that the catering's bad.
Yep. It could be tonight.
It's a gift. No way, not in Austin. The food's always good in Austin.
When did you know people like to hear me sing? They want to hear me sing.
Well, I grew up in Seattle, which is not exactly the hotbed of Christian anything, but there are Christians there and incredible churches there. And I was raised in the church, so I was raised in a musical family. I'm the youngest of 5 kids.
Oh,
all of my
really?
siblings sing, so I grew up singing with my family. So I always knew I could sing. But I didn't dream. This was before American Idol or The Voice or whatever. Yep. So in Seattle, you just thought, I'm going to grow up. I'm going to sing in my church.
Yes.
And I went to college and studied elementary ed, and I thought I was going to be a first grade teacher.
You would have been so amazing.
Oh, well, thanks. I tried to homeschool my kids one year, and I would have been a terrible teacher. I'm like, oh man, thank the Lord I didn't actually become a teacher. I'd have messed up some people's kids.
No, you would have been amazing.
But
thank you for doing this podcast. You have vocal.
Wow,
You're on
my
vocal
voice,
rest.
I have been. So Bernie is my husband of 23 years, and he and I did a tour together in November. I don't know if you remember back in 2020, but we just started doing songs on our Instagram together. And, it's so funny because I think we were doing it to keep from losing our own minds.
True.
And I think it helped a few other people not lose their minds.
Yes, it did.
So we were like, well, let's see what happens with this. And I think last count, it was 78 million people watched those videos.
What?
You can't make it up. I maybe would have done something other than my pajamas if I would have known. 78 million people were going to watch those videos.
78 million
So
people.
out of that, we were like, well, let's do a tour together because Bernie doesn't usually tour. But that show is 2.5 hours of me singing my guts out. And I think maybe I wasn't quite in shape for that. So I lost my voice, but it's doing well. It's doing well.
Well,
yeah.
when I asked Bernie, I want Natalie. He said, she's on vocal rest. I said, okay. 2 days later, I said, I still need Natalie. She's still on vocal rest, Randy. Okay.
Yes, I try not to talk before the show. And it's so hard because I noticed that the singing is one thing, but talking, I don't know if there's a right way to talk and a wrong way to talk, but I never took vocal lessons or anything like that.
Amazing.
But I'm pretty sure that I'm the wrong way of talking because I laugh a lot.
You've got a great laugh. That's a great laugh right there. That's a great laugh.
I can't help it but laugh.
So do you do vocal warm-ups?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
And then do you warm down?
They say to do that, but I mean, no, I don't warm down. I'm like, no, I'd kick off my heels immediately.
And quit.
And I'm done. Like, I don't got time to warm down.
You grew up in the church.
I did. Yeah.
Pentecostal church?
Yes, I grew up Assemblies of God.
So we didn't, if we were sick, we sang.
Yes.
If we were tired, we sang.
There was no, you just sang. You had faith that God was going to heal you in the midst of it.
Exactly. So is that where you developed your ability to sing? Was it in a Pentecostal church?
Yes. Honestly, I say all the time, even now, we don't know the names of the greatest singers in the world.
Isn't that the truth?
Because we've never heard them. But they're in some Pentecostal church somewhere singing their heart out every Sunday. Because the greatest singers are from the church. I'm convinced of that. Even when you hear singers that that do secular music, they always sometimes, it's like they always have a church background in there somewhere, their grandma's church or there's something.
Yes.
But I believe the greatest singers are in the church. But I grew up singing in church, and my church had a really incredible, kids music program. I sang in a youth choir that traveled all around. And even now, I think, even for my kids, churches aren't doing enough music with kids anymore. So they expect that they're supposed to do it in school or whatever. And I'm like, no, the church was the best place where I didn't have to be great.
That's right.
It was okay to be just okay.
Yes.
But those people championed you and cheered for you and believed in you. It was like a safe place. So we need more of that to come back into the church for kids.
Oh, I agree. When I hear you sing, let's say a Dove Award or wherever, when you sing, I love music and I know pretty good music but
you've been doing it for a while.
Something about your voice, just I don't know. And we say, well, it's anointed. Well, there's a lot of people anointed, but there's just something about your voice. It touches the core of my soul.
Thank you for that. I think I've never. I mean this in a respectful way, but in any kind of industry, music industry, there just seems to be rules that are put on people. Well, we need you to do this, or I just never listened to those rules.
Thank you.
I just was like, well, if I did that, that wouldn't be who God made me to be. So I don't answer to you. I answer to Him because the gift came from Him. So I even remember there was this Dove Awards must have been the last one I sang at. I did a song called My Weapon. And I just remember the curtain was about to come up and I just looked at Bernie and I said, I feel the Holy Spirit stirring. I feel it. I might get kicked off. They might bring a hook to pull me off. I said, but just follow me. Yeah. And he did. And I remember hearing from an artist named Jordan Feliz. Oh, Jordan. Who texted us afterwards and said, that moment after the song, God healed me of something in that moment. And I just thought, what if we wouldn't have had the courage to do what God was asking us to do? And I don't know, for any young artists that are watching or listening, do what God tells you to do. Yes. Always be obedient to God over trying to please man, because man will always change its opinion of you depending on the moment. But God, when you please God, He just opens doors that no man can shut and shuts doors that no man can open.
That's so true.
It's just surrender to the Lord. It's always the better way. Always the better way.
Well, that's the That's the feeling I get when I see you sing. It's like she is not in a box, and industry is not going to dictate. She is going to do what God.
Thank you for that.
So we had the privilege of working with your phenomenal husband.
Yes.
Through a couple of record projects.
He loved working with you guys. Oh my word!
But I remember I would be in your house over there, and that wasn't a good story about the house. That's a whole other show.
We're in a different house now. Thank the Lord.
Okay.
Thank the Lord.
That's
He's restored it all. Because that was a stressful.
Oh, that was.
You were in that house that had like.
Yeah. And
so you were probably recorded in like a guest bedroom or somewhere.
We sure were. And I just remember your 3 kids. They were so little.
They were so little.
So he was recording my vocal in the guest bedroom, I think, and I could hear him go, feet running across, and he would say, wait on your vocal, and then back. And then he said, just a minute, and he would go up there.
Be like, hey, can you guys just be a little bit quieter?
And that little baby girl
I know.
is 12 today?
Well, she's 12, but the girls you're talking about, in 2 months, they'll be driving. They're turning 16. Because Sadie wasn't even born yet when he worked on your records.
That's true. Okay, so 16.
16. The twins are about to be 16, and Sadie is 12 today.
Happy birthday.
Thank you for her. It's been such a joy. They just are such a joy. Honestly, I know 3 girls. I always say at some point every day somebody's crying, and it's usually Bernie.
Bernie!
He's the best girl dad, honestly.
Oh, I love Bernie.
He is the best girl dad. The Lord knew exactly what he was doing, giving Bernie 3 girls. But
how did you meet Bernie?
So the way I got out of Seattle is I joined a singing group called Truth. I don't know if you remember who they are.
Oh, yes. Dear Lord, I didn't know that.
So I called that Christian Music Boot Camp, where I did 330 concerts a year for $50 a week. When I got there.
A week?
A week, $50 a week. And we got $5 per diem for lunch and $7 for dinner. Like, this is a true story. And when I got there, the girls' job was to clean the bus. So when I very first arrived, the first thing they handed me was a bottle of soft scrub and a toothbrush. And I had to clean the bus. I was like,
toothbrush.
Oh, because you had to scrub in all the crevices. And Roger Brilliant would come out and check the bus to make sure it was clean. Roger, I hope you're listening to this.
Roger. Do you know that was Natalie Grant?
Roger.
He didn't know that was Natalie Grant.
Oh, well, it actually, I say all the time.
I know.
I wouldn't trade it, but I'd never go back.
Never, ever.
ever. But so I did that for 2 years. And then I moved to Nashville, and I was like, well, I feel like the Lord's asking me to do this. So I said to my parents, if it doesn't work out, I'll move back to Seattle and finish college, because I dropped out of college to do Truth. And so I had to do a showcase for a label called Benson Records.
Benson.
And that was my first record deal.
Is that
They
right?
went out of business. But the best thing I got out of that record deal was a husband. Because if you know who Jackie Patillo is.
Oh, she was our A&R.
She was my first A&R.
Is that right?
Really? Oh, my goodness.
Star Song.
She was because she came from Star Song with Jeff Mosley.
That's right.
To Benson.
How about that?
So she signed me to my first deal, but before they gave me the deal, they said they wanted me to do a showcase, and I didn't know any musicians, and I don't play anything outside of my voice. And she said, well, there's this guy that plays at my church. I think he's on tour with Twyla Paris and Avalon right now, but let's check to see if he's in town. And so I hired Bernie. That's how I met him.
You did.
He played piano for me for that very first showcase. And then I literally was like, I remember I went to this, he was working at a studio. I don't know if you knew a guy named Nathan DeJezer, I think was his name. But
I don't.
So Bernie was working with him, and he said, hey, I'll be at the studio tomorrow. So I remember pulling up to the studio, and this guy walks out the front door, and I just remember in my head thinking, please say your name is Bernie. Please say your name is Bernie. He was like, hi, I'm Bernie. And literally I was like, oh, I'm your wife. Like I'm definitely your wife. I don't know if you know that yet, but I know it. But I know it.
Oh,
so, yep.
That's sweet. Now, Bernie, is one of the great musicians, writers, producers
Yep.
of, as far as I know, of my genre.
Yes, I think he's one of the greats.
He took our sound, pulled it apart, put it back together. I've never worked harder in my life for a producer.
He will make you work very hard.
I have never.
I know. But then the end result is so good.
So he's the one that produced Revelation Song. And
I know that. I see that. He proudly has that plaque on the wall in his studio.
how could we ever thank him for that? He told me, he said, now, so, the song had been recorded already for multiple people. And it's a long song. It's like 4 minutes, 4.5. So we thought, it's never going to see the light of day. So Bernie says, I'm going to put a whisper choir on it. I said, a what? A whisper choir. I said, I don't know what that is. It's just in the background. You'll have to have headphones to hear it. And they'll just be singing, holy, holy, holy.
Goosebumps.
And I said, Bernie, do whatever you want. And nobody ever going to hear this song.
Well, a few people heard that song.
They did.
A few people heard that song.
Go put your headphones on.
And go listen close.
Listen, holy. Who have you recorded with? You've got a song out with Corey right now, right?
It just came out yesterday.
What's it called?
It's called You Will Be Found.
Ooh.
And it was actually from the Broadway musical called Dear Evan Hansen.
Yes.
And the first time I heard the song, I was like, yeah, this is a Christian song. These people might not know it, but actually one of the things I love is how when you look for it, the gospel always finds a way to find the message into the world. And in that song, I'm like, this is the gospel message. People don't even realize it. So I knew I wanted to record it, and I had Corey on it. So
my goodness.
my new record, it's my last record in my 20-year record deal. I've had a 20-year record.
20-year record deal?
20 years. It's my very last record that I'm about to turn in, and they let me do a covers record. So it's a record of songs. It's called Seasons. So they're songs from all the different seasons of my life. So but they're with younger artists. So I remade Russ Taff's We Will Stand. But it's with Torrin Wells and Jacqueline Carr.
My word.
Like Kane. There are all these people that weren't even born when the song was out. Or like I just redid Another Time in Another Place with Jonathan McReynolds.
No
way. And he
way.
thought we wrote it. No. And I said, no, this came out in 1990. But he was like, that was the year I was born. I said, shut up.
We don't care. Did Bernie produce this?
He did. He produced it. So it's really special.
I can't wait. When is it available?
Well, I don't know. I haven't turned it in yet. But You Will Be Found is available. It just came out yesterday.
Can't wait.
Been super fun to see the response to that.
I can't
really
wait.
Grateful.
Now, is Bernie as hard on your vocal as he is when I sing?
No, he's hard. Like that's the only time people always say, like, how do you work with your husband? Or I'm like, well, I love it. Until he says, that was great, just one more time.
I think you've got a better one.
Yeah, just one more time. And then usually after 27 times, I'm like, I'm about to tell you what you can do with your one more time.
And I just said, Bernie, I love you, but that was it.
That was it. That's
was
actually
the better one.
all I have.
That's it.
That's all I got, Burns. No,
I love Bernie.
There's no one like him. I always often wonder, what is it really like to be inside his brain? Because he just hears all the parts.
Genius.
Yeah, he is.
He is an absolute genius.
He is a genius. And sweet.
I don't know who his idols are, but I would like
David Foster.
David Foster. He's just he's
I don't know
my
if you
generation's
knew that
David Foster.
But David Foster signed Bernie, so he got to work with him for a long time, which is how he got connected with Josh Groban, which is how he's been doing his records, and got to work on Barbra Streisand. I mean, when I go down and look at his little wall, I'm like, there your plaque is next to Andrea Bocelli and Barbra Streisand and Revelation song. I love it.
Oh, me too.
I love it.
All right, I've got to be aware of your time.
Yes, I'm
you've
so
got to
sorry.
go
I don't even know what time it is, but I got a birthday cake to present.
Hope for Justice.
Yes.
What is that?
So back in 2004, man, I'll make the story quick. I literally was watching Law and Order Special Victims Unit, one of my favorite shows on TV.
Yes.
They did an episode on something called human trafficking, but in 2004, I'd never heard that term before. So I actually Googled what is human trafficking, because Law and Order is always ripped from the headlines. So you know it's like an actual real case.
Yeah.
And this case was children being sold in New York City. And I just remember thinking, this is not real. There's no way this is real. And I Googled it. That's how I learned about human trafficking. Bernie and I took a trip to India, started an organization back in 2005. In 2012, we merged with another one from England. Together, we became Hope for Justice. And what started as like an organization that our first goal was to build an orphanage in India, which we were able to do. And we thought, that's amazing. You know, it was just like one little step at a time. And now today, this year, as we were ending 2022, we'll have helped over 250,000 kids just this past year.
What?
22 offices spanning 14 countries. And it's just
Natalie Grant.
It's mind-boggling.
What in the world?
When I say that, it sounds, I want to quickly say I'm not the hero. I just said yes way back when, and then God sent the right people. So now I'm like, I'm not on the front lines. The people that are doing the work are the heroes. But again, I feel like it's just a constant lesson that when you say yes, when you're obedient, my mother always said, literally before I would get spanked, obedience brings blessing. And I've never forgot that.
I'll bet you haven't.
But obedience does bring blessing. When you obey, you don't always see, but God just somehow, when you surrender, he does what he needs to do. So the organization's unbelievable, and the work they're doing
So how
is
can
incredible.
people contribute, donate to Hope
They
for
learn
Justice?
about Hope for Justice just by going to the website. If it's easier to remember me, you can go to nataliegrant.com, and there's a link on there, but hopeforjustice.org.
Well, I want everyone to do that.
Well, thank
Help this.
you.
This is touching the world.
Thank
Natalie,
you.
thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
There's so many other
an
things I'd like to
honor.
talk to you about next time.
Next time.
Next
We will
time.
come back and we will have more time
All
to talk,
right.
but it's a joy to speak with you. Thank you
I
for
love
having
you.
me. Love you.
Well, Natalie Grant, you are amazing. Thank you so much. To find out more about Natalie Grant's upcoming projects, visit nataliegrant.com, or to help end slavery, like she mentioned, visit hopeforjustice.org. Thanks for tuning in. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And if you have a question you want to hear answered on the podcast, email me, podcast@life.family. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, God bless you.